We're trying to get to a balanced budget, and we're trying to keep open the government. If the president will sign the bills, the government can stay open.
That was House Speaker Newt Gingrich 3 days before the last government shutdown in 1995. We're back with the Roundtable, including Speaker Gingrich, co-host of CNN's Crossfire, Robert Reich, former Labor Secretary and star of the new movie Inequality for All, ABC's senior Washington correspondent Jeff Zeleny, and Gwen Ifill of the PBS NewsHour. Welcome to all of you. So, Speaker Gingrich, the Republicans, what are they going to do with this, and what should they do?
I think they should get plenty of sleep. The next 3 or 4 or 5 weeks are going to be very tense. They're going to be very challenging. I mean, all these people who want the House Republicans to surrender, and that under the constitutional system, if the House gives up the power of the purse, it surrenders. So Obama goes 3 times this week for partisan attack speeches, and basically says, I'm not going to negotiate. I don't care what you guys do. This is not a dictatorship. Under our Constitution, there should be a period of tension, and there should be a compromise on both sides. Ironically, Obama said on Friday, nobody gets 100%. Well, what's he willing to give up?
Look, I don't think, with due respect to the Speaker, that the issue here is anything about is the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, good or bad? Do you like it or do you not like it? I think the issue is whether one party in Congress is going to be allowed to use the entire system of government as basically blackmail to get its way. After a law has already passed both houses of Congress, been put into law by the president, signed into law, the constitutionality of that particular law has been undeniably affirmed by the Supreme Court. Once you go down the road, Newt, where you can simply, if you don't like a particular law, you can threaten to shut down the government. What's next? Social Security, Medicare, the Fair Labor Standards Act?
So you would repudiate basically the American system. Remember, the Democrats lost.
You are repudiating the American system.
The Democrats lost 63 seats in the House immediately after passing Obamacare. So both sides have talking rights. The president can say, I won the election. Boehner can say, and we won the election. Under our constitutional system, going all the way back to Magna Carta in 1215, the people's house is allowed to say to the king, we ain't giving you money.
No, I'm sorry. Under our constitutional system, you're not allowed to basically risk the entire system of government to get your way.
Sure but Jeff, there is a reality here. And when we heard it in your piece, top of the show, from John McCain, the Senate is not going to go along with defending Obamacare.
Right, and you hear that again and again and again from Republicans. I talked to Orrin Hatch last week, walking through the halls of the Capitol, and he said, you know what's happening in the House? They're unfairly raising the expectations for everyone in the country who wants to, who does not like the Affordable Care Act.
The base thinks they can actually pull this off,
and they can't do it. So so that's a big worry. So as this moves to the Senate this week, there's going to be a lot of huffing and puffing. But is Ted Cruz going to be standing alone, or who's going to be with him? Senator Rand Paul was in Michigan over the weekend. He bluntly said what seems to be the obvious, we can't get rid of Obamacare. And even if the government would shut down, the Affordable Care Act continues. Those exchanges still open on October 1st. So that's the underlying point here. The Health Care Act is here to stay, but all tied to the debt limit, and that's up for discussion this week.
We're talking about sending messages, some of my least favorite things in Washington, when you do things just to send a message. But both Rand Paul and Ted Cruz are talking filibuster, which means they get to hold the floor for as long as possible. It doesn't mean they get to stop Obamacare. It doesn't mean they get to do anything but bounce it back to the House and then put yet another dilemma in John Boehner's lap. By the way, Mr. Speaker, I liked your shirt in that picture.
Yeah, that was a good sweater.
1995. Was that a sweater? That was a good look.
It was. I remember that.
There's something bigger here, which you didn't even deal. First of all, you controlled the entire Congress. I mean, the Republicans were in charge of the Senate too. But this time around, this is really just the warm-up. I mean, Secretary Reich, the debt ceiling, we're talking, there haven't been any negotiations whatsoever. The White House says they won't negotiate on the issue. And we hit the debt ceiling in the middle of October.
And the last time there was a threat, you recall, to actually not pay our debts, not pay the interest on the debts, not repay our creditors, our entire bond system, the United States government, was downgraded. That cost American taxpayers a huge amount of money.
We could have another downgrade. Why is the White House not negotiating on this, though?
Because it should not be negotiable. I mean, the principle that you can, there's a kind of scorched earth, anything goes set of tactics that can be used by one side in a political game in which the entire government of the United States, including the faith and credit of the government of the United States, can be thrown into that same game. Is absurd.
Well, this is historical baloney. We have added something to the debt ceiling.
Better than pious baloney, I guess.
Well, it is.
It's not even pious.
He's not pious.
And it's
Look, the fact
you're
is,
absolutely wrong.
No, wait a second. The fact is, since Dwight Eisenhower, we have added things to the debt ceiling. Graham-Rudman, which was a big change in spending, was on the debt ceiling. Obama has added things to the debt ceiling. So when the president goes, as he did to the Business Roundtable, and says, this is unprecedented and I won't negotiate, this is not a dictatorship. At some point, members of the House are allowed to say, come sit at the table. He doesn't sit at the table. He goes out and makes partisan attacks.
It is true that the president likes nothing better or seems to be no more energized than when he gets a moral dudgeon. And that's true of everybody else in the White House, too. But he is not unhappy right now. Right. I don't think anybody is talking to anybody in the White House who are saying, oh, gee, it's a shame the Republicans are fighting among themselves.
It's the best week he's probably had in a few weeks after Syria and everything else. Suddenly
he is president, and if the economy goes down as a result of this, you know, he's ultimately
without a question.
So I want to change quite dramatically to what is happening in Iran. We have a potential game changer in the Middle East. A new Iranian president talking about reconciliation, saying he is ready to negotiate, ready to talk to the United States. And the White House, Gwen, seems to be open. I mean, are we going to see them meet in New York this week?
First
the president of Iran and the president of the United States?
That's what we're all waiting to see. I think even if there's a choreographed handshake, a still photograph, that would be course changing. It's been 35 years since we've had any kind of conversation with Iran. Hassan Rouhani, the new president, who they say is a moderate by definition, Iranian definitions, that might be not what we call a moderate, but he has undertaken a full, flat charm offensive.
With Twitter. I mean,
with Twitter, with American press, with interviews. He's going to be, you know, styling around New York at the General Assembly this week.
Rosh Hashanah, congratulations.
Rosh Hashanah, congratulations. Except when Ann Curry asked him whether he also agreed with Ahmadinejad, whether the Holocaust was
he said, I'm
made
not
up.
A historian.
He said, I'm not a historian, I'm a politician.
Okay, so you are...
Which is one sign that the White House is sort of worried about this.
They're a little nervous.
Okay, I don't get the sense you're buying.
Well, first of all, a moderate Iranian revolutionary, acceptable to the Ayatollah.
Right, the Ayatollah approved all the candidates in the last election.
That's right. That's true. I mean, this is a guy who's going to charm us. He's going to talk with us. He's going to have tea with us. He's going to do photo ops with us, and he's going to build a nuclear weapon.
So, well, let me agree with Newt partly. I think that the issue here, I mean, we can't get expectations too high. We've got to be very cautious. But one of the big lessons here is that economic sanctions do seem to work. Right now, Iran is suffering 30% inflation, 20% unemployment. I mean, this nation is hurting, and our economic sanctions, because we've been patient with them, because we have actually rounded up almost every other nation to support us, have had a huge impact.
That's how he got elected in the first place.
And Iran wants those sanctions lifted, which is why he's been given a green light by the Ayatollah to at least begin this process. You're not suggesting that President Obama shouldn't meet with him, are you? Because that would be historic in and of itself. We haven't seen this since Jimmy Carter met with the Shah in 77.
I mean, the question is, what do you get for the meeting? A meeting with the President of the United States is an enormous advantage to anybody who's been isolated. So what do we get for the meeting? A photo op? What are they going to give us?
Shouldn't we test it? That's what
no,
the president
you tested
says.
Before the meeting. And I think, you know, from Eisenhower through Reagan, there was a pretty clear sense. To get to meet with the President of the United States, you had to have worked something out.
So even a photo op is a bad idea? Do you think that shows
I think it sends a message. Look, I don't think it's a crisis or a disaster. I'm just telling you, this guy is part of the dictatorship. He has zero interest in giving up a nuclear weapon. This is a game to buy time. And in fact, in his earlier career, he claimed that he managed to confuse the Western Europeans in order to buy more time. So let's look at who he really is.
The normal pattern of diplomacy through these things is not to begin with a face-to-face meeting.
Right.
It's to begin with underlings who clear the brush, who actually create the agreement, and then the face-to-face meeting is to confirm the agreement, and that's the way it should be here.
I think the timing is what's interesting because of Syria.
Unfortunately, we are out of time, but thank you very much, Gwen, Jeff, Secretary Reich, Newt Gingrich.